Welcome to Miss Perry's video lectures. Today's lecture will be on factors of change. Factors of change tell you how much one variable will change if we change another variable in that same equation. Here's how we're going to approach these problems. First, remember the math applied to that variable also applies to the factor. As you're completing these problems, ask yourself, if this variable increases or decreases, how will it change my result? And lastly, when you're finished, double check your answers by plugging in sample numbers and ask yourself, does this answer make sense? Let's try it out. By what factor will v, speed, change if d, distance, is doubled? In the equation to the right, speed is equal to distance divided by time. First, we see that there is a direct relationship between speed and distance. In other words, if more distance is covered in the same amount of time, speed will increase. So if we increase d while keeping t the same, speed has to increase. And if distance is doubled, like the question says, that means that speed must also be doubled because there is a direct relationship. Therefore, our answer tells us that speed will double. Let's try another one. By what factor will kinetic energy, Ke, change if velocity is doubled? Notice the equation to the right. Kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 times mass times velocity squared. First, we notice that there is a direct squared relationship between kinetic energy and velocity. It's a direct squared relationship because velocity is squared. And since velocity is squared, the factor it's changing by, 2, will also be squared. Since it's a direct relationship, if speed increases, then the kinetic energy will also increase. So, if velocity is doubled, kinetic energy will increase by that factor squared. And 2 squared, 2 times 2, gives us a final factor of 4. So kinetic energy will increase by a factor of 4, or in other words, it will quadruple. Let's try one more. By what factor will the force of gravity, Fg, change if distance, r, is doubled? Here's our formula, which is a little more complicated, but notice force of gravity is in the numerator on the left side, and distance, r, is in the denominator on the right-hand side. This means that there is an inverse relationship between those two factors. Not only that, but r is squared. So here we have an inverse squared relationship. Because it's an inverse relationship, if distance, r, increases, then our force of gravity will decrease. Also, since our factor is squared, since our variable is squared, that means our factor is also squared. So if r is doubled, force of gravity will decrease by that factor squared, 2 squared. Therefore, for our final answer, we know that the force of gravity will decrease by a factor of 4, or it will be divided by 4. That's it for factors of change. Yet another thing to put in your physics toolkit. Thanks for watching.